Everybody better watch out. Grok 3 is coming and destroying everyone.
Hello and welcome to the All Future podcast. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
It feels good to be actually in studio again after going in some hotel rooms.
Welcome back.
Welcome to the All Future podcast where we talk everything AI, humanoid robots this week, technology, phones, everything that we're going to see coming up in the future here. We're trying to gear you towards the future so you can know what's coming up too and you can prepare and be excited for all the things that are coming.
Yeah, or potentially terrified in some ways. We don't sugarcoat on this podcast. So
the dystopian and the utopian.
Yes, exactly. So first, our main topic for today, we're talking about Grok. And Grok, if you're unfamiliar, this is xAI's AI that's like kind of the equivalent of ChatGPT, Google Gemini, all those things. And it came up fairly quickly out of X once Elon changed the name of Twitter to X. Then they branched off and did xAI, which I think was a separate thing, but is like clearly the same. And then it's now an attached feature onto X that you have as one of your options when you're using the app or anything. There's also a standalone Grok app now, and they just launched their version 3 of Grok, and it's all using that big computer cluster that they built, and it's apparently really good.
Fastest computer cluster in the world that they put together in 3 weeks or something like that. That's supposed to take 3 months.
Did you see the whole clip of them talking through how they built the computer and like all the problems they had along the way? It was interesting because they did a live stream detailing everything, and they were like, it wasn't like we just built it and it was easy and then we did it in 3 weeks. It was like we had to solve all these problems, and they didn't have enough power in the factory that they had built to then do this in an empty space. And so then they had to use generators for half of the factory.
Oh my God.
And then he said, but power surges are a huge thing with GPUs because suddenly it goes online. He said it's the equivalent of like 100,000 piece orchestra going from soft to loud all of a sudden with compute power, which is using electricity. And so then the generators couldn't handle that. So then they partnered with Tesla and had Megapacks installed that were then like specially programmed for this task. And I don't know where it's at now, but it helps them get to where they're at to be this giant cluster.
That's wild. I did watch a lot of the Grok launch video, and that was in the launch video talking about how we had all these clusters, but it wasn't actually running at full capacity. So even though we had, we were running at about 80%, and now it's running at 100%, and it will keep training at 100% as it goes along. But it's crazy that even though you can just like purchase these things from NVIDIA, that you actually have to build all the infrastructure around running them correctly too, to even get to these points.
Yeah, I mean, even just building, I've been doing little upgrades to my recording studio, and I think I've been talking with you, like I buy like a preamp, and then I'm like, wait, do I need a special power supply for this?
Yeah.
Nobody mentioned anything about that. Nobody mentioned that there's this other thing and it just gets expensive, and you have to actually know what you're doing to set up the main thing. It's not just plug and play.
Yeah, so they even Jensen from NVIDIA was, giving them their props, saying, okay, you actually, did this better than anyone else we've sold these to.
Yeah.
And it's showing now because the benchmarks are crazy and above everyone.
Yeah, so they're announcing the Grok 3 model, which is rolling out slowly via the Grok app. And then there's a smaller Grok 3 Mini that is promising faster responses that's coming.
Yeah, and they put it against all the same benchmarks that we see ChatGPT 03, go through, and it's been killing it. I did see one post that we're missing ChatGPT's latest model run in December. And it did not surpass, it was equal to. So there might be one ChatGPT model out there that is equal to one of the benchmarks. But
they conveniently left it off of the benchmark.
Supposedly, but we'll find out too. And then supposedly, these are all like benchmarks from xAI, so we don't know if they're real either. It's the company just putting them out. It's day one. Everyone has to take these models and actually verify them against everything, which is the beauty of these situations, right? Like, no one's going to take you at your word when you just release something that says all the benchmarks are happening. But they did do something cool. They hid it under the codename Chocolate and put it in chatbot arena, and it outperformed everyone. And they had like comments from people like, this is the new AI model, this is the new best, latest, and greatest. And it turns out that, it was Grok 3.
Yeah. That's a good way to test it, honestly, because I think at this point, there's a lot of people that are not taking it seriously or are partial and wouldn't want to take it seriously and say, no, it's not as good, even if it's actually benchmarking. So the blind test is kind of smart there. But yeah, pricing, of course, is now going up for X Premium, and Premium Plus, I think, is the tier that gets this. And they're doing $40 a month for web, because that gets you full access to the full models. And then I think it's $30 per month on mobile, since it's a less powerful version that you get on mobile.
This is interesting. It's supposed to be just as good as the latest ChatGPT with deep research. And when you think about these plans and how they're priced, most of the plans are $20, but the research plan on ChatGPT is $200 a month. It's supposed to replace like an actual PhD, student on your payroll.
Yeah.
And so priced at $50 doesn't seem crazy, especially to just go test these things out and see how they could be useful in your life. It seems like it's good at answering questions like all these other AI, LLMs are good at doing, but we haven't really found our like significant use cases. We don't have advanced voice feature yet, but Elon says it's coming.
Yeah, they did a quick demo of what it would look like. It looks like what you'd expect.
Yeah, similar. And we don't yet have an enterprise API feature. Well, that will be the big thing that, if we can actually release this and we can actually get it out to companies to get their hands on and try out, that'll be the real big customer, because then you're paying per, call instead of paying your $50 a month subscription or whatever. So we'll see what pricing does. I don't think $50 is crazy. It's, the price of, entry to these bigger, better models. And what are you actually going to use it for? Like, do you need it or not at this point? Because a lot of these things are getting commoditized. If you're a DeepSeek user, you're just doing for free what everyone is paying $20 a month for.
Yeah.
And if you're, a Llama user or, any other open source or just like one model down, are you really getting something that's not as good for the most part,
It's interesting, too, because this is rolled into X. So it's rolled into the social network and the subscription there, because you get, I think it's the ad-free tier that you get on X with this, and then you get your verification badge and all the stuff that people do pay for. For many people, that's probably going to be like, what? No, I don't care about those features at all, or I don't even use X. I just want the AI. But for some people, it's like, oh, great package deal compared with just $20 for GPT. And then if it does have, it's better, and then it has that advanced reasoning that you're talking about. It seems like it would be a good deal. And then it's also, I think it's like $3.95 a year. They do a year subscription if you want. I'll definitely try it out soon, especially once it's rolling out further and fully available, because I use GPT quite a bit for fairly basic things, but I still find, I get myself into corners that it can't do. So I'm always curious to try the next one.
I'm super curious as to like what X integration looks like. Can you get tweets and create some kind of AI agent out of it, like you can in ChatGPT now, where I've been using my little Tesla bot where it emails me Tesla news every day. It'll give me an update. It's not the most useful thing. It can't like determine whether news is old or new sometimes. But if you can say something like, give me tweets about this company happening in real time and try to react to them in a certain way, like this becomes incredibly useful. Most news about companies just breaks on Twitter or X,
Yeah.
And those tweets cause massive price moves in the stock market. They cause massive, changes into whether or not you're going to subscribe to something or not. Like DeepSeek broke on Twitter. All these things break on X. They're breaking on X. It's like, as much as you don't want to admit, and you might not like that who owns this company or who's running this, that's where breaking news is happening. And so, it's hard. It'll be really interesting to see how an integration directly within AI there like makes its own ecosystem, because Google has its own search and its own infrastructure. And we've talked on this channel a lot about how that's going to matter a lot in the future. Even if Gemini's not the best model, they already have your email address and they already have your business, wrapped up in their system. And so that's going to be huge into the future. Like, all of these LLMs are going to be good, and they're all going to get commoditized. How does that, play into the next ecosystem? And so the people who really have the advantages are the people who have something to gain from that. Like, And no news is breaking on Facebook with Meta or Instagram. There's no breaking news over there. And, Google is people writing articles from X, like this is us taking down and distilling news from X and talking about it. So it'll be really interesting to see an LLM unleashed with like direct access to X as a platform.
Yeah, that is a good question because I've thought about that same thing, like searching around for tweets or like can it write something based on a tweet or whatever. But it's very interesting that is integrated with that platform compared with others. I mean, even Meta, it's like, yeah, you have to be a like member of Facebook, but I don't think it's like fully involved.
They tried when they first released it. They put it in everything, and like now there's a button in Instagram and Facebook where you could just sort of press the button and get the LLM. But
that's a good point.
No one uses it. I don't think that audience even likes AI.
Yeah,
to be honest, And maybe if you're like making content for Instagram or something, it's helping you with captions. Like the features are helping, but I don't ever go into Instagram and go like, I want to use this AI to search for something, or I want to use this AI to help me write my essay or something like that. I'm really going outside and would use Gemini or ChatGPT.
Yeah. If you're doing that, let us know in the comments because I'm genuinely curious.
The llama purists over here.
They're like, I love using Instagram's AI or whatever. But the whole thing is funny to me because it almost feels like the episode or the season of Curb where he opens the Spite store.
Yes.
Latte Larry's to spite Mocha Joe's. Feels like XAI is just a spite to OpenAI.
To Sam Altman.
Yeah.
It might be the multi-billion-dollar spite AI,
Yeah, exactly. And just to prove that these models can get trained very fast and you can be overtaken and that they're not doing anything special or whatever.
Right. I was watching Curb on the way back on the airplane, and I sent Ryan this clip because I think I was watching it. We both like that show. There's the one scene, and I know this doesn't sound like it has anything to do with technology, but they always throw little bits of things in there, and it's Larry talking to Siri, and he's trying to like find out where the restaurant is, and Siri is just responding so badly with the wrong answer, and he just gets madder and madder and madder. It is the funniest, most relatable thing ever.
Yeah, I love that show. Good show. Check out Curb Your Enthusiasm, our next sponsor of this podcast.
Hopefully, yeah.
That would be lovely. But no. So speaking of XAI and just AI in general, we have DeepSeek was the big news a couple weeks ago. And as a result, a bunch of these other stocks like NVIDIA dropped and stuff because people were like, oh my gosh, China's doing AI training so much faster and so much more efficient and all these things. But now safety concerns have come out, training like that concerns that they weren't actually training it in the way they said are coming out. And this latest safety concern is Korea banning DeepSeek because they found that user data was sent back to ByteDance, which I got to learn a little more about ByteDance because I know they're obviously involved with TikTok, or they own TikTok, and a lot of things like that. But I was like, really? It's ByteDance as well with DeepSeek?
Yeah, it's interesting, too, to see that that's where the data went back. I don't fully understand it either. I couldn't tell you exactly what's happening. I could tell you that it's the same concern that ByteDance has some sort of ties with the Chinese government, and they will use that data somehow to influence something or use it on the back end, or even the fact that them having it is unsettling or something. Yeah. Any of these companies having it is unsettling, but a foreign, theoretically adversary country having that data is pretty unsettling.
Yeah.
But I don't think this comes as a surprise. I think this is what everyone's been saying, is that if you're going to use a Chinese model, the data is going to go back to China, and that's a reason to use, something that's on the U.S. soil, which would be, XAI or ChatGPT or Meta or any of these companies. Like the data is going to be stored in the United States.
At least as far as we know.
Yeah, exactly. It's theoretically safer, or like your country of origin. We really don't know any of the privacy policies around these things, and they're probably not very good, It's just like using any other social media or anything like that. So it comes with its own sets of dangers, but like there's tons of IP theft in China. So if you're using, DeepSeek to do something, in that world, it might take your idea, or, there's a lot of things that can happen in the middle of that you sort of have to be careful how you use LLMs. We'll see what happens. If you're using DeepSeek as just like a way to do your homework or something like that, again, like I don't see a huge problem with it. But if you're using, an enterprise LLM or any kind of AI device, I think you really need to vet it and make sure that it's going to work well with your company and that you can like talk to a human at that company and, really talk about your privacy concerns with them, because your trust and your bond with your customer is going to be huge. So if there's a data leak or something like that, or any of these things, like where's that information going and what kind of security or protections do you and your customers have? You're opening yourself. You might be getting something in return of like having a lot of benefits, but you're opening yourself up to a lot of problems as well if some of these things happen. And we know data leaks are going to happen, so.
Yeah, that whole situation is interesting. And hearing ByteDance, it feels like everyone's like, oh, yeah, of course, a Chinese AI that's sending things back to China. That's bad. But then that was like the same mentality for the TikTok ban, which is now in limbo. So I'm curious if this goes through and becomes a big problem, meaning that DeepSeek is not a big player, or if something gets flipped around or something.
There's a big conspiracy theory out there right now, Ryan. Are you ready to go to conspiracy world?
I guess so.
That TikTok actually did get banned, and that the version of TikTok that we're using now is a Meta product and not a TikTok product. Have you heard this before?
That's a great conspiracy.
There's something that happened. This is totally unverified, and don't listen to me. And if you're like super into this in the comments, don't come for me, because I don't believe this is 100% true. Or else they would have just voted on it. They would have just voted on it and gotten rid of it. I don't think it would go that deep. There's a lot of people who think that after it got banned and came back, a lot of their algorithm changed, which I don't believe either. I'm getting tons of the same stuff. With the change in the algorithm came when the new TikTok came to the platform, it had something about Meta in its description or where it came from, which I also don't believe.
Yeah.
Meta has Instagram and Facebook, and those things themselves do have just completely similar products to TikTok. When TikTok got banned, I subbed to all the same creators that were on TikTok and made just a new Instagram channel because I like keeping up with them. So I don't believe that to be true. If you believe that to be true, let us know in the comments and tell us if your TikTok algorithm changed.
Yeah. Explain to us how that's true. I love that as an idea. That's a wild, like a great movie plot, great so many things, and a great conspiracy theory. But yeah, it's like, what?
Yeah, there's lots of real psyops out there that this one seems very unlikely because, there'd be no reason to, and just ban it.
If they did it, I don't think there's any benefit to doing it secretively versus doing it out in public, right? Like Oracle or whoever buys TikTok.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All the people addicted to TikTok that desperately still want TikTok are still going to use that new version. I don't think they're getting much out of it by it secretly being, but that's what a conspiracy theory is. Yeah.
I will take my tinfoil hat off and talk about our next topic, which is that OpenAI has a huge roadmap in front of them. And even though Grok has, taken the lead right now, allegedly, we'll see in the coming weeks whether all these benchmarks that they're saying are true or not. We're really going to see these new things come from ChatGPT. And I think they're the most aggressive in trying to make an LLM into products that people can use. And I think that's the real, making applications out of these things is going to be where the real money and use cases are. Because it's like you've discovered, gold, but you have no idea how to use it to make jewelry or to make a semiconductor or to, use it in a use case or something like that. So it's like, okay, what are you going to do with, 100 tons of gold, but no product or use case? It can't feed you. It can't do these things. So how are you going to use this thing to actually do something with it? So what's coming up in their roadmap coming forward?
The first one is something that I'm definitely interested in, and they talked about how they realize how complicated their model and product offerings have been, and they want their AI to just work, and they don't want the model selector long term, and that's something that they're working on. Because even for someone who uses it, I'm like, why wouldn't I use the newest one, the best one? Why would I choose to use an older one? Why would I choose to use Mini? All these different things as a subscriber with access to all of them.
That is
it's
a really
a little
good point.
confusing.
Yeah, why? I want to use the best one, and I'm paying for this tier, and what does it matter to me if I use Mini or not? I think those are only options that matter in the API tier, and Mini is going to cost less, but perform less well, and so, yeah.
Yeah, and I bet there's certain tasks that maybe an older model does better or more efficiently, or Mini does it more efficiently, so you get a quicker response, but like to know that as a user, like that's exactly what they're talking about here, is they want it to just work. You don't have to like think to, oh, let me use this different one, shift over. So that's kind of the first thing they talked about. And then next, they're going to ship GPT 4.5. It's currently called Orion internally. And it's
so many Orions.
Yeah, we have the Meta Orion glasses. Maybe that's the next conspiracy. The glasses are the product coming from OpenAI. But no, they're going to have that. That's what it's called internally right now. And it's their last non-chain of thought model. To be honest, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know either. We'll get into it. Someone in the comments will tell us.
Non-chain of thought, because I thought that's how it works.
Or that was a better thing. It went... because when it showed its work, it was getting answers more correct more often. So it'll be interesting to see what that means long term.
Yeah, or maybe they've done well enough improving all of it to where they don't have to do that whole step and it's more efficient. But then after that, they said, a goal for us is to unify O series models and GPT series models by creating systems that can use all our tools, know when to think for a long time or not, and generally be useful for a very wide range of tasks. So exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, and then exactly what we were talking about before is like it knows when to use which model. And it's trying to be efficient on its own.
Yeah.
Which sounds like, a very good next step. And, if you're a NVIDIA bear and you think it's going to go down over time, then you're going to see the efficiencies in these models really, start to, do we need another $1 trillion? I'll tell you the answer to that is, whether we need it or not, these guys are going to take that money and spend it anyways on all this stuff. So it's not going to matter. But
and it feels like it's still going to be a while before we reach that breaking point when they're actually stopping to buy hardware because the software is so efficient.
Yeah, and we don't know what we don't know. It's really, I know that's like a cliche thing to say, but right now ChatGPT is as smart as us, and we want it to be smarter than us. And so you don't know what limitations it's going to hit when it is smarter than us. And so you start talking to it and it's telling you things that you can't comprehend. And so you want it to be able to go out there and solve something for you that like you could not even imagine that humanity can solve for itself, or a problem that humanity doesn't even know that it has, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys need to stop using the color blue in things. It's killing you guys. And it's like, what? I wear blue every day.
Yeah, how is that possible? Yeah. I need to... Yeah. Gotta change the...
No, but just something... that's just an example, something you can't imagine being a problem.
Yeah.
And so you don't know what you don't know until you get there. And so I don't see any stoppage of these things because we haven't hit those places yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the problems they are also working on that I'm excited for is the free tier. Once GPT-5 ships, the free tier is going to have access to their standard intelligence level setting, and it's going to have unlimited chat access. They do say subject to abuse thresholds, but I assume that means you're just going nuts and you have bots running constantly. Yeah. But that's exciting because I know some people that I like kind of encourage to try out GPT, but they always reach the threshold, and then it's just kind of like a discouraging thing. Like maybe you're getting in the zone with something and you don't want to subscribe yet, but then you reach this cap and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, if this is what's going to happen or something like that. Yeah.
So now they should have access for a lot of knowledge, standard intelligence, with GPT-5 coming in the future, and have unlimited chat access. But then pro subscribers will have the highest level of intelligence, and then below that is the plus subscribers will have a higher level of intelligence, which is an interesting thing. Like, it's no longer number of prompts, it's how smart the person is, or how smart the AI is.
That's so odd. It doesn't... It's like anything. I don't know that being smart is the solution to the problem. It's never been 100% the solution to the problem, because you have to be smart, and you have to know how to implement things, and you have to know how to sell them to people so they want to buy them. Just being smart leaves you on an island by yourself because like you can't even get these ideas out of your head into reality. You have to work with a team in order to get, if you're the smartest person in the world, you have to work with a team in order to get these ideas out of your head into reality. Because so these things are on such big scales that, you can't build a, 1,000 GPU cluster, if you're working by yourself on an island and you're the smartest person in the world.
Yeah.
So having the most intelligent AI in the world doesn't help you unless you can implement those things into the world. And you can amass your, army of humanoid robots. Then maybe you can get to your island where you could just do everything by yourself. But right now, you need a huge team of humans to do those things. You need huge forms of capital to get into these things. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting. Because there's going to be people who become billionaires by using the tiers that aren't the most intelligent tiers because they're providing the most value to people. So I like this. I hope it's useful in the ways it's supposed to be useful, and I hope that it does. We don't get to like the $1 million a month tier or something like that, where it shouldn't be like that, or like we're withholding this intelligence from people that could potentially help them or something like that. I don't know that we'll get there.
Yeah, it seems like that's a ways off, or at least this is always changing the way these things get structured and framed. So, I'm not sure that what you're saying will happen. But long term, it's always interesting to watch these things because it's kind of like watching, for me, baseball with whoever the leader is in batting average in the league or whatever. Someone will be on a streak and they'll have it for weeks, but then someone else they had their run, someone else takes it over or whatever. That's how it feels with AIs right now because it's like technically XAIs.
What an apt analogy, Ryan.
Thank you.
Very apt.
Right now, apparently XAI is ahead. We'll see with other like third-party benchmarks and stuff, but it's just always someone else is gonna. GPT is going to release 4.5 in a couple weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
They'll be the ones ahead for a few weeks, and then maybe Gemini makes a big announcement at their Google event, and then something happens there.
Elon did make a big deal about Grok being a AI that's built from the ground up, trying to just find truth whether people like it or not. And we talked about this a little bit, but like in the commoditization of LLMs, meaning like all of these things are going to have about the same information, they're going to be able to answer these things. It doesn't seem like that's like an issue going on with ChatGPT or Gemini. Like it was an issue in the beginning when you got all these like weird responses, but those have sort of been weeded out by now. But we'll see how that actually evolves into the future. If having a different set of guardrails like leads to a different level of results, that will be really interesting because it's the only thing that feels at this point like it might be a little bit different than how all these other people are doing, creating their secret sauce. Like, did they have a different set of guardrails that they had to start from first principles? And if that's true, then we might see like drastically different results.
Yeah.
But even at the benchmarks right now, like you can, feel that like, okay, OpenAI is going to beat this in 6 months. You're not going to stay at this top forever.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what happens because this feels like an actual different player in the game, not just like everyone playing by the same rules and whoever has the most compute or ecosystem will win. This feels like, okay, this might be like slightly fundamentally different, and with that fundamental difference might be able to get fundamentally different results.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then we'll see if that comes with flaws and like
its own flaws.
Big fails that hit the news and like go like the Google stuff when they were telling, I think it was like putting glue on pizza, stuff like that. It announced or told someone.
What moments will Grok have that make it like embarrassed to be itself or whatever,
Yeah.
Or like if you go super utilitarian, meaning like, okay, well, if the train track thing where you're like, okay, if 2 people are going to die over here, but if you switch the train to hit this other person, which one should you do? And if you get like a really bad result on that or something that's just a little too like even like just hard for people to swallow. It's decisions that people have to make every single day. Like if you're in some negotiation situation, you have to decide like, these are really hard decisions to make. Are you going to take that person's life or this person's life in order to save this person's life? These are decisions we have to make every single day in our military, in the police force, in anything. If there's someone attacking your child or something like that, you are going to make that decision for yourself of what you're going to do in that situation. And we just don't like it when a robot does it, but we can tolerate it when a human does it, you know? And as these AIs are put in charge of more, things, they might make those decisions, or full self-driving or something like that might make a decision to change lanes or something like that, in a way that causes an accident. So we'll see how Grok makes the world feel uncomfortable.